I built a mini ITX Amiga using real chips. I've squeezed Beta Sarah Linux onto an Intel compute stick. And I have tinkered a little with Minimig. But I never touched the MiSTer project. It just looked like a headache-inducing stack of parts wrapped in a mass of complicated GitHub tutorials. That is, until now. Introducing the MiSTer Multisystem 2, and it might finally make FPGA gaming accessible. Made by Heber, the Multisystem 2 takes the MiSTer FPGA platform and wraps it in a clean, ready-to-use package. All the usual expansions like USB, high-fidelity audio, networking, analog RGB or HDMI video output, they're all here, and they're all integrated. No daughterboards, no ribbon cables, no guesswork. It's just plug and play, and that's the point. The case is 3D printed, is functional, well presented, and you won't notice the subtle layer lines. It really is a very sturdy 3D design. So let's talk details. The MiSTer Multisystem 2 comes in two versions, a digital only, which is priced at £170 excluding VAT, and the analog version, which is what I've been testing, comes in at around £210 excluding VAT. UK buyers will pay £204 and £252 respectively, once VAT is included. Both units are designed and manufactured in the UK by Heber. Now there's been a few common questions on some of the other videos that I've watched on the Multisystem 2, so I'll try and answer most of those questions up front. First up, do I need a DE10 Nano? Well, no. That's the whole point. The FPGA chip, previously provided by the DE10 Nano board, is now integrated directly into the Multisystem 2 PCB. So there's no stack, no extra boards, just one clean unit. What about networking? Well, many people have pointed out that on the digital version it has no Ethernet port, like on the analog version. In fact, both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are supported, and both of those can be connected to the USB ports. A good source for a couple of known working options for this is MiSTerFPGA.co.uk. I'll put some links in the description. Do I need to learn a new setup process? Well, no. In fact, there is no hardware setup process at all, beyond plugging in power, your controller, your output display of choice, and inserting your SD card. As far as the firmware setup process, or creating an SD card, that process is unchanged, and all the instructions that are out there will work perfectly. Does it support cores being loaded by NFC? Well, yes, and that's where it gets fun. The unit I'm using includes a Zapparoo module, thanks Richard, which lets you load games or cores by simply tapping an NFC card. The Zapparoo project is fully open, and more info is available at zapparoo.org. You will need to supply a compatible PN532 USB reader, which can be mounted in the case under the card slot. Are original controllers supported? Well, yes and no. Out of the box, the Multisystem 2 has USB. For my testing, I'm using an 8-bit DO controller, which is probably one of the cheapest controllers available, and that works perfectly. As for original controllers, they can be used on the analog version of the Multisystem 2 by using one of the snack cartridge adapters, or alternatively by using the control dock, which allows a selection of vintage controllers to be connected to any system supporting USB, including the digital version of the Multisystem 2. There is also an alternative case for the control dock that fits neatly under the Multisystem 2. All these accessories can be found on the Heber store. As always, links in the description. Sponsors of this video are PCBWay, and they're celebrating their 11th anniversary. There's a lot going on. Discounts, exclusive products, prize draws and special events, but it all wraps up on July 18th, so don't miss out. They provide PCB prototype fabrication from as little as $5. They also have a huge library of shared projects, and if you're not confident with a soldering iron, you can even get them to assemble them for you. PCBWay also have CNC machining and 3D printing services. All of this is available at PCBWay.com. Thanks PCBWay for sponsoring this video. Well, I think that's enough talking for now, so let's fire this bad boy up. Control, responsiveness, latency are all excellent. The gaming experience is exactly as I remember this stuff, flicking through some random chords and games. It really was quite an experience. You can play literally everything from a late 90s arcade cabinet right through to an Atari Lynx game. Well, the MiSTer turned out to be incredibly easy to set up. Just a matter of connecting power, HDMI, putting in the SD card, throwing my controller into a USB port, and turning it on. So where does the MiSTer Multisystem 2 sit in the MiSTer ecosystem? If you're already deep into a MiSTer stack, then this probably isn't the thing for you. But if you've been waiting on the sidelines, looking at MiSTer from afar, a lot like I have, this could well be the thing you've been waiting for. Many people like the idea of FPGA recreation of hardware, but the MiSTer project has had a pretty high barrier to entry when it comes to tinkering with a lot of the hardware. The original MiSTer stack is really designed for tinkerers and can cause the average user quite a lot of headache getting one set up. But when the Multisystem 2 arrives, you can just plug it in. You don't have to spend 2 to 3 days putting everything together and playing around with all the connectors to get everything working. And that is really the headache that the Multisystem 2 solves. And because it runs the existing MiSTer ecosystem firmware, your existing guides, SD cards, images, and any core update work are going to work on the Multisystem 2, just as they would on a MiSTer stack. And that means you're not locked into anything proprietary. This is literally just a multi-system stack, expanded out and integrated into a single board, giving you just a better hardware experience. The multi-system doesn't look out of place in the average living room. This is one that you can probably get past your significant other, even if they're not into retro gaming. I'd also like to take a moment to thank my Patreons. If you'd like to become one of the supporters of the Hack Build Restore channel, then you can sign up at patreon.com. So hopefully this has given you some information about the Multisystem 2, and if you found this video in any way informative or entertaining, then please consider clicking like and subscribing to the channel if you want more like this. In the meantime, why don't you check this out next?